Are you ready to look at all the music from hip-hop's greatest battle? Because today, we're going to be ranking every rap war diss track from worst to best. Now, when it comes to what has went down in hip-hop recently, we've witnessed one of the craziest times that the genre ever has, as we've been watching an all-out musical battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And beyond just these two titans, so many other of the biggest rappers on the planet have thrown themselves into the ring at some point with lyrical attacks of their own. So if you're ready to look at all the diss tracks and see what songs we are going to remember as some of the best disses of all time and which we hope to forget, let's waste no more time and let's get right into it. Now, kicking off this list in last place, we got Drake's The Heart Part 6, and with this song, it's hardly even a diss track and more of a defense track, as Drake just tries to clear his names of all the allegations Kendrick Lamar threw out over the course of scathing diss tracks like Meet the Grams and Not Like Us. And while Drake could have tried to have flipped Kendrick's words and got some momentum back in this feud, with this, he ended up making himself look like an absolute joke, as from lying about setting up Kendrick and feeding false information about him having a daughter, which was clearly just not true between the fact that Drake had no receipts, and his initial knee-jerk reaction to hearing Kendrick saying this was an Instagram story post, and beyond just this part, the way he defends himself from not being a PDF file downloader is really some of the worst things that have ever been put to paper, as from saying that he is too famous to get away with the things he's been accused of in a world where famous people are seemingly always getting away with this type of thing, or defending the girls he likes by saying he doesn't like Millie Bobby Brown after nobody even brought her name up. This song is just embarrassing, as Drake tries to defend himself with the worst rebuttals possible, and with this song being a glorified PR statement that is seemingly trying to do damage control and somehow still fails at that. For all these reasons, The Heart Part 6 is a pathetic entry that's at the very bottom of this list. Now, coming in at number 12, we got Kanye West with his Drake and J. Cole diss track with the Like That remix, and with this cut, despite the instrumental flip of Future and Metro Boomin's Like That being one of the most insane flips of a beat in quite some time, with the choir that Ye inserts into the core of the track. When it comes to Kanye's disses on this song, in a feud where so many rappers have been jumping in, with Ye being the last rapper to enter with a diss of his own, overall it all just felt kinda pointless. Looking at this track, it's honestly hilarious that Kanye comes on saying that he has Kendrick Lamar's back, like Ye dropping bars like this are really gonna help Kendrick in any way possible. And while Ye's little jab at J. Cole is funny, and his few lines at Drake gave him some ground to stand on considering that he is now an independent artist free of industry control, with so many filler bars that say absolutely nothing, the timing of when this track dropped, and the things Kanye said about how obsessed he was with Drake in an interview that followed this. All in all, the more you soak this song in, it just feels like Kanye is trying to get some attention. So overall, while this diss isn't reputation changing or damaging for Ye, it's just so forgettable, and for that reason, it's number 12 on this list. And coming in at number 11, we got another Drake track, this time with his highly controversial tailor-made Freestyle. And while this diss track was never meant to be an all-out attack and was just a jab to taunt Kendrick Lamar, between the use of AI, Tupac, and Snoop Dogg, to Drake trying to bait Kendrick to drop as soon as possible, as he said that he had absolutely nothing to say, and that's why he was taking so long to respond. As this beef has progressed and Tupac's estate sent him a cease and desist, and Kendrick seeing Drake seemingly disrespect Pac by using this fake version of him only fueled him to attack him even harder, and of course, despite Drake's bluff, Kendrick clearly having a lot to say about him as this feud has went on. Overall, this track has aged horribly since it dropped, as everything Drake did here seemingly worked against him and pushed him into the corner that he's currently in, and beyond just its effect in the beef itself. While we are looking at these songs as diss tracks, despite the use of fake versions of Pac and Snoop being a creative battle tactic to taunt Kendrick, the idea of one of the biggest artists in the world using the biggest threat in the music industry's future on a song sets a dangerous precedent. So overall, for this mess of a track aging like milk and just making the future of the entire music industry a little more scary, Tailor-Made Freestyle is at number 11 on this list. Now, coming in at number 10, we have another controversial diss track with J. Cole's 7-Minute Drill, and with this song, while initially, despite Cole's response to Kendrick Lamar's Like That verse being pretty weak between all the disses that just seemed like they were bending the truth to a place that nobody else agreed with, to the recycled bars from Jay-Z's Takeover, it still initiated what we all thought would be a back and forth between the two most iconic lyrical rappers of the last decade, but as J. Cole apologized to Kendrick 2 days after releasing this song at his Dreamville Fest. This thing aged poorly very quickly, but still, it's not as embarrassing or as lackluster as the tracks before it, so for this reason, just like in the greater feud itself, J. Cole's 7-Minute Drill is far away from being remembered as the worst part of this entire feud. Now at the number 9 spot, we got Drake's Buried Alive Part 2, and with this track, very similar to Tailor-Made Freestyle, this was not supposed to be a major moment, and with this seemingly releasing right alongside Drake's Family Matters on social media. Its only purpose was to troll, and get us ready for what Drake had really been planning, and with him parodying the Kendrick Lamar interlude from Take Care. He did a great job spinning this, and with lyrics that began to dissect Kendrick and expose why he is engaging in this feud in the first place. It definitely set things up for a strong follow-up with Family Matters, and for this song just doing its job in about as good of a way as it can get. This parody of a cut has made it all the way up to number 9 on this list. Now coming in at number 8, we got Rick Ross's Champagne Moments, and with the only official diss track from Ross in this feud. I have to commend how quickly he was able to get this response out, as after only a few hours after the release of Push-Ups, Ross showed that competition in hip-hop was alive, as he gave Drake some lyrical smoke here over a menacing instrumental and even ended up revealing to us some big things as well. Now the pair of verses from Ross on this track are solid, from his rebuttals to some of Drake's disses to the way he talks about how the nature of Drake has changed for the worse as he has gotten deeper into the industry. Ross definitely came in and defended his name, but overall, he just doesn't articulate what he is trying to say here enough to truly create any damage, and when Ross actually makes Drake look bad here, while revealing that he turned against Drake because the OVO rapper sent another close collaborator, both his and Ross's, French Montana, a cease and desist because he didn't want to be on his album. The fact that Ross did this by just speaking in the outro and not actually rapping about it definitely holds back how effective this record is as a diss, so for this reason, while Champagne Moments is solid and shows that Ross can't be thrown around, all it manages to do is just defend his name and throw some jabs that when we look at everything in this feud, overall had such little impact on Drake. Now moving into the top 7, we are now looking at songs that we are going to be talking about for quite some time, and in this spot, we got Drake's Family Matters, and with this cut, from the 3 beat switches to some of the accusations Drake throws Kendrick's way, it is definitely an insane moment, but between its actual impact being stomped on immediately by Kendrick, which we will talk about later, to many of the disses that Drake threw out being able to be proven as straight up lies with a single Google search, this track definitely starts to crack when you dissect its lyrics in full, but still, the energy from Drake on this track is amazing, as he sounds as hungry and focused as ever, and while dedicating so much of the track to dissing A$AP Rocky and guys like Future, Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, and Rick Ross, definitely makes it seem like Drake didn't have enough to go at just Kendrick here with. This is a cut that, despite its flaws, it's still an overall well-made diss that, between all of its beat switches and crazy accusations that were trying to make a stain on Kendrick, was designed to make a massive impact on the rap world and only really plundered because of one of the most unexpected moves in hip-hop history. And coming in at number 6, we got Kendrick Lamar's 616 in LA, and with this cut, as this was Kendrick's second solo track that was dropped in this beef, and it was released back to back with Euphoria. Drake getting 2 diss tracks dropped on his head really set the tone, as Drake got his own winning strategy used against him. And while Euphoria was a massive swing at Drake that served as a sort of overview to why Kendrick despises him in the first place, this cut serves as a more direct warning that begins to raise the pressure on Drake, as Kendrick claims that there are people in his OVO camp that are moles for him, and with Kendrick giving Drake straight bars over an Al Green sample, where his own uncle played the guitar on. And also, he jacked Drake's own AM/PM timestamp series. Overall, this was a phenomenal chess move by Kendrick that really highlights the importance of strategy in rap beef, because while this song does not have any scathing disses that the public will remember to the point where it would haunt Drake, the sheer pressure that Kendrick's sentiments were able to put into the air as he doubled down on Euphoria ended up really helping him when this beef heated up, so for these reasons, 616 in LA is at number 6. And cracking the top 5, we are looking at some genuinely great songs in here. In this spot, we got Drake's Push-Ups, and while Drake's strategy continued to fall apart throughout this beef as Kendrick kept outclassing him, this song was when he was in most control, because with a fiery lyrical performance that simultaneously manages to address every single artist who had been dissing him leading up to this, Drake showed that he is a force to be reckoned with, as whether he is pushing back on somebody like Rick Ross by making fun of his past, or he's shutting down Future for switching up on him, or Metro Boomin, who he's able to effectively dismantle with one of the most hilarious quotables in this entire beef. Drake's performance here really portrays him to be a Thanos-like figure, where he can go against all these different musical forces at once, and it's still a fair fight. Now, of course, at the center of this track are Drake's disses for Kendrick, and although Lamar clapped back on Drake's disses about his unfavorable record deal and pretty much put this to rest, and while Drake's bars calling Kendrick short can only do so much in a beef of this magnitude, with this being Drake's first entry into this feud, these were the type of shots that he needed to throw out, and for seemingly addressing everyone, shaking them off, and setting things up to be ready for just Kendrick going forward. Drake set the perfect tone for this beef with this song regardless of how everything else played out, and for these reasons. Push-Ups is one of the best tracks from this feud. Now, cracking the Mount Rushmore here, we got the song that started this entire thing off with Like That, and I'm not judging this record as an entire hit song, but only for its diss from Kendrick Lamar and Here. With one verse, Kendrick made one of the most pivotal, genre-altering moves of all time, as after years of subliminal exchanges, he unleashed sheer and utter chaos on not just Drake, but also brought J. Cole into things, as he told them that they did not belong in the big three of rap alongside him. And from the creative wordplay that makes you never second guess if you are hearing Kendrick challenge Drake and J. Cole to spar with him, to the unmatched energy we see from Lamar here, which was such a shock. This verse created one of the greatest moments in modern hip-hop, and as it molded the initial parameters that Kendrick and Drake battled with, as Kendrick positioned himself as Prince and Drake MJ. This was such a brilliant way to not just call Drake out, but to set the tone in a way that he would be able to build on later, and for these reasons. Like That is the fourth best diss on this list. Now, cracking the top 3, we are now looking at tracks that I all think could be in the convo for some of the best disses of all time, and in this spot, we got Kendrick Lamar's first full-fledged Drake response after Like That with Euphoria, and with this cut. This showed that Drake was playing with the wrong guy, as between the 3 beat switches, Kendrick's vocal range, which is always warping and changing to create such memorable moments in the track, to the actual disses that Kendrick throws out at Drake that, while not really saying anything new, points out everything that we have seen him do over the years in a way that just makes him look absolutely pathetic. This is what a diss track that is trying to raise the bar should do. And as Kendrick is able to take all the frustration people have had about Drake for about the past decade and put it into one anthem that puts into perspective just what Drake stands for at this point. Between the disses being memorable, creative, and most importantly, allowing Kendrick to follow them up with things that are even more lethal. Euphoria is another track that executes its goals to mere perfection in this beef, and for this reason, it's in the top 3 of this list. And cracking the top 2, we got Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, and while I think Euphoria may be a better song overall, this anthem's better for this list as it's a way more effective diss, as Kendrick Lamar is able to make another diss track on Drake that calls him a PDF file downloader and somehow makes it a massive hit song. From Kendrick Lamar's memorable punchlines that twist things that are synonymous with Drake's brand, like Certified Lover Boy and OVO, into things that are not just hilarious and effective, but super memorable to Kendrick's final verse, which calls out Drake for exploiting Atlanta artists to strengthen his own brand. The fact that in this banger, Kendrick calls Drake a musical colonizer, and by doing this, makes him look awful to his collaborators from there and simultaneously unifies the West Coast and the South in this beef. Once again, Kendrick is just showing that his strategy is next level, as everything with this track is not just humiliating Drake, but with entire dedicated sections of call and response that chant Drake disses. Where once it seemed like this beef would be a musical duel and that was it. With songs that are humiliating Drake going this viral, there are going to be some serious repercussions from this feud for Drake, and with a track like this, as it's already one of the biggest hits rap has seen in years, and it could end up very well being the song of the summer, the effectiveness of this cut could truly be career-altering for Drake, and for this reason. For Kendrick Lamar making a hilarious, catchy, and quotable hit that now seemingly has the entire public dissing Drake for him. Not Like Us is a genius diss, and it's number 2 on this list. And finally, coming in at number 1, we got Meet the Grams, and oh my god. Between the strategy of this song dropping right after Drake's Family Matters to seemingly shut down the biggest song he had in this feud, to the diss itself. This isn't just one of the most creative and brilliant diss tracks ever recorded, but it's also one of the most disrespectful, as through 4 of the most ruthless verses ever written. Lamar dissects his biggest rival in a way that is genuinely horrifying, and as Kendrick paints Drake out to be a beyond horrible person, and seemingly writes letters to each one of his family members. He goes about this in a way that is so personal and shocking, as from his grim demeanor, which makes everything he says sound so brutal and painful, to the way he addresses Drake's mother, father, son, and possible daughter. With every bar, with every moment that this track progresses, it only gets genuinely more insane. Starting off a diss with the bars, "Dear Adonis, I'm sorry that man is your father," is one of the most disrespectful ways that you can start off a song, and it's really right alongside a track as legendary as Hit 'Em Up's opening line in terms of how it just sets the tone for this cut to be an attack like no other. And from here, whether Kendrick is telling Drake's own kid how his father is terrible, or he's calling his dad out for making him the way he is. Kendrick raps to these pivotal figures in Drake's life and tells them how he has failed them, and of course. One of the craziest moments in this song on Impact was when Kendrick reveals that Drake may be hiding a daughter, and while we don't know if this is true, even if it's not, this song still works because every other verse is still as twisted as it can be, and beyond this, well, it definitely loses some points if it's a lie. The horrifying picture Kendrick paints of Drake makes it seem like he would have another kid missing as a whole, and finally, closing out this track, Kendrick addresses Drake in one final blow that puts everything into perspective and disses him in a way that honestly, after hearing, I can never look at him the same from. When Kendrick is diving into Drake's soul as he tells him and lets the world hear that everything he has stood for and represented is an absolute lie, it's truly one of the most intense moments on any song that I have ever heard, and closing this out, as Kendrick leaves Drake looking worse than ever, as at the end of the day, he doesn't even go in as deep as he can, as he knows that Drake still has the worst battle to face, which is the one with himself. This track leaves you looking at Drake in a completely different state, as it delivers maybe the most damaging attack on any rapper ever. So for these reasons, for Meet the Grams being one of the most creative, disrespectful, and horrifying diss tracks ever made, it's not just the best diss track from this feud, but it is hands down one of the best of all time. So there you have it. There is every single diss track from this genre-defining feud ranked, and let me know, do you agree with this list? And let me know what your top 3 songs from this beef are. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you want to see my ranking of every rap album between Kendrick, J. Cole, and Drake to see which Big 3 member has the best discography, check out the suggested video.